is Sports Phone KNBR.
Sponsored by Industrial Metal Supply.
On the Sports Leader. Check the live stream on YouTube
at KNBR 1045.
The 2-2 is bounced toward third. Chapman's got it. He'll wind and throw. Got him at first. Game over. And for the Giants, it's modest, but it's a winning streak. Ball does the job, and what a job by the bullpen at large tonight. A true, pure bullpen game, and the Giants held the Cubs to just 4 hits and the 1 run.
All right, welcome into the Sports Phone KNBR postgame show with Bill Lasky. 2 in a row for the San Francisco Giants after going 1-5 on a dismal road trip. And yesterday, the emotions were flowing. Number 24 was flying through the ballpark. All the emotions came through as the Giants scored 3 in the bottom of the 9th inning to win the game. And today, the page was turned. Now we go into the City Connect uniforms, and the players started playing a little bit better tonight as the Giants held up, only giving up 4 hits to the Chicago Cubs and only 1 run, and they pull it out 5-1, but it was a lot closer throughout the game. It was 2-1 going into the bottom of the 8th before the Giants scored 3 to open it up. But it really started all the way to the beginning of the game. Of course, the Giants are really short on starting pitching. We saw it yesterday with Miller being an opener. Today it was Randy Rodriguez, and boy, did he put a show on. One of the best outings he has done so far in the orange and black. He goes 2 2/3, only giving up 1 hit, 1 run, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, and really he was in control for 2 2/3 of this game before he walked the leadoff hitter Nico Homer, and that was really the only blemish he had. And sure enough, a base hit by Bush after a stolen base, and a run scored. So a lot of things were happening right there, and it was just a tough outing right there for him just to try to get that 9th out. And he pitched well. Velocity was in the high 90s, a grid slider. He had thrown 53 pitches, 34 for strikes, but he was in control right off the bat, punching out the first 2 hitters in the first inning, throwing 23 pitches in the first inning, 14 for strikes, and getting ahead of the first 2 out of the 4 hitters. The second inning going 34 pitches and 23 for strikes after 2 full innings. 4 first pitch strikes to 7 hitters. Really, really in control. Bailey had him mixing up pitches extremely well. The slider today had a real sharp break, and of course the elevated fastballs a couple times at 96, 97 was just excellent. So Bob Melvin put him out there in the 3rd inning, got the first 2 hitters out, and I really felt he was going 3 full. And he had Sean Jelly warming up, and I think everybody felt, hey, get through the 3rd inning. What a great inning, but it just didn't work out. And sure enough, he only gave up 1 run on 1 hit and 2 walks, 1 in the first inning and 1 in the 3rd inning. But Sean Jelly comes in and gets the final out of that inning, striking out Suzuki. And sure enough, the bullpen from there on was just spotless. They really pitched well. 6 relievers total. Sean Jelly goes 2 innings, giving up 2 hits, 2 strikeouts. He only throws 23 pitches, and he throws 20 for strikes. Really a great outing for Sean Jelly. Once again, 8 first pitch strikes to 8 hitters he saw. He really had a 3-pitch mix that he mixed really well. The sinker, the knuckle curveball, and the cutter, all different ways the ball were moving, and that's what's been so consistent about Sean Jelly coming in with using the 3-pitch mix. Patrick Bailey had him mixing up pitches, throwing a sinker in to a lefty to get the first strike, and then sure enough, the knuckle curveball was really working as he got 4 ground ball outs. Then it turned over to Taylor Rogers. Taylor Rogers ending up giving a walk-up to Bush, but sure enough, he punches out Bellinger looking, and the 5th inning was over. Then it turns over to Ryan Walker. Ryan Walker really threw the ball well again, going an inning and a 1/3, and he got a nice double play after giving up a base hit in the 6th inning. And sure enough, he goes an inning and a 1/3, 23 pitches, 14 for strikes. The bullpen was really throwing potential strike after strike. Each one of them, Jelly, 20 strikes out of 23 pitches. Taylor Rogers, 16 strikes, 24 pitches. Ryan Walker, 14 strikes, 23 pitches. Then you go into Tyler Rogers, 10 strikes, 15 pitches, and Camilla Duvall ends it with 10 strikes, 15 pitches. And that's really a solid outing out of 6 relievers when you look at it. The last 9 outs, 9 up, 9 down. The bullpen was just pitching. And sure enough, even if it was a 2-1 lead, they would have kept that intact. But the Giants ended up scoring 3 more runs in the 8th inning, and it really started off with Luis Matos getting a nice base hit to left field, and then Brett Wisely hit a bomb. And 29 other parks, it would have been a home run, and he hit it in the top bricks in right center field. Bellinger just played the bricks perfectly, and they held him to second and third, but it didn't matter. Ramos gets a walk. Patrick Bailey gets a fielder's choice. The run did not score, but Jorge Soler comes up and gets the sac fly deep center field, and sure enough, Matt Chapman finishes it off with a nice base hit to score 2, and the Giants get 3 in the 8th to open up the lead. Something they've been doing a lot lately by getting late runs, but early runs was the struggle. Today they got 2 in that bottom of the 2nd and 3 in the bottom of the 8th, and sure enough, the Giants hold on to a 5-1 victory. Their 38th win, 42 losses. But all in all, this is what the Giants needed to do, and I think last night, by getting that win in the bottom of the ninth, proceeded today in more of a motivation, positive thoughts. Things like that does happen, and you turn it over again tomorrow, and we'll talk about Hayden Birdsong in a minute. But today, I really felt the Giants played good defense, really some sparkling plays, and they took it in with the City Connect uniforms. And the City Connect uniforms are now 28 wins and 12 losses. I know I laugh about it a little bit, 28 and 12 for the City Connect. But when you look at 40 games and you got a 28 and 12 record, you may just want to continue to wear them. But at the same time, the Giants did a great job today in getting their 2nd win in a row. And now tomorrow, let's talk about what we're doing here with Hayden Birdsong, a 22-year-old pitcher from Eastern Illinois, 6'4", 215 pounds. He throws hard. He gets it up to about 99, 98, averaging between 96, 97. A nice curveball, a slider. He was in the 2022 draft. He was in the 6th round, 196 pick, but he has moved up quickly through the Giants organization. One of the key points here, this year he started off in Double-A in Richmond. He ended up going 4-2 with 11 starts, a 2.05 earned run average in 48 1/3 innings, 33 hits only, 20 walks, 61 strikeouts, only giving up 5 home runs. They brought him up to AAA, maybe a week ago, 10 days ago. He's had a couple starts. He's only gone 9 innings up there. He's given up 8 hits, 5 earned runs, 6 walks, 14 strikeouts. But when you combine them, he's had a great year, 5-2 with a 2.5 earned run average. The walks are up a little bit, 26 walks, 75 strikeouts. So we're going to see another MLB debut tomorrow. And this guy's throwing the ball well. I talked to, Dave Brundage, the Sacramento manager, and he said, Bill, he's just got a little electricity, an electric fastball. It's got that little life, that little extra to it. And he says he watched him in spring training, as we all did, because he was in big league camp for a while, but he has something special. And when you got something special like that, a manager picks that up. A good hard breaking ball stays in the zone, but the fastball, the elevated fastball, blowing guys away. And you see that when you got 75 strikeouts in 57 innings. So tomorrow should be a special day. The Chicago Cubs are going to try to throw a bullpen game back at the Giants, but tomorrow should be special. I think everybody needs to take a peek at Birdsong because he is that type of pitcher that could possibly stay up here and fill one of these spots, as the Giants do need some starting pitching. Hicks will go on Thursday, And it's going to be just one of those games where if he performs well, Bob Melvin even said in the pregame show that he said, you know what, I'm not just going to bring him up here for one start. If he does what we're looking for and you get him up at 22 years old, you never know what could happen. And that's what the Giants need right now. They need a spark in this rotation. When you look at it, you only got Hicks and Webb. Kyle Harrison starting to throw a little bit. Some backlash on Blake Snell. We just don't know how far he's going to want to go in the minor leagues and throw. Robbie Ray looks like he won't be back till after the All-Star break. And then you have Tristan Beck, who's starting to throw off the mound. So there's a couple other guys, Alex Cobb also. But I just don't see any cavalry coming up here till after the All-Star break. So the Giants are going to have to fill 5 spots. The last 2 games, of course, has been gone to the opener and then the bullpen. And tonight, the bullpen was stellar. 6 relievers went in there, only giving up 4 hits, 4 walks, and 11 strikeouts. Just a star on the bullpen. It's really a good showing by the San Francisco Giants bullpen. Tonight, we're going to be having Sean Jelly on. Sean Jelly's going to join me later in the show, and we'll talk a little bit about the game and some of the other things going on with the Giants, especially last night. Love to hear what he has to say about what happened in Willie Mays and the celebration of life and how he felt everybody wearing number 24. So we'll have Sean Jelly later on the show. 808 KNBR. Let's get on the phone lines. Like I say all the time, don't worry about Willie Mays stories. I want to hear all your memories any night I'm on. I would love to hear more tonight. If you have a Willie Mays memory, if something you want to talk about, something that cherishes Willie Mays in your heart and soul, 808 KNBR, let's talk about it, as well as this game. The Giants win 5-1 at Oracle Park, 38-42 on the season. We're going to take a quick break and come back with more right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips that you plan in advance, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends for which you make a group chat 3 months before so that nobody or anything is missing? Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it with such dedication that instead of the first, it felt like our 15s. The same way you plan each detail for those moments.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that catch-up.
Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Dub Nation, dial the digits and dive in. 415-808-KNBR. Sports Phone KNBR continues right here and on the all-new KNBR app.
Hey, Bob, how closely did that game sort of go to what you were plotting out from a pitching standpoint, and who really do you think impressed you today on that side?
Well, everybody when you give up one run. But, you know, for Randy, hasn't started before, gave up the one run on one hit. But, you know, he goes 3-0 on the first guy and comes back and strikes him out. And then gave us, 2 2/3, which I didn't know he was going to give us that. And then it was either going to be Taylor or Jelly for 2. We went Jelly for 2 and then Taylor on the backside of it. So that's the way it was going to go, and hopefully we were going to be able to get to our 7, 8, 9 guys.
Bob Melvin on Sports Phone KNBR, the post-game show. Some great insight right there. And if you're watching the game, Randy Rodriguez started the game off going 3-0 on Homer, and then he comes back and punches him out with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball in the outside corner, and from there he was dialed in. I just love to see Patrick Bailey with you set so many different pitchers with so many different pitches he throws, and he just sits back there, and he really stellar, just so solid in putting his glove up and making the calls. And you saw in between the game, in between the innings in the dugout, Jelly was talking to him, and Rodriguez was talking to him, and that's a communication that you got to have with your catcher. Of course, Brian Price is always down there with the laptop kind of showing him what's the next 3 hitters moving forward. But just like Bob said, that was the first start Randy Rodriguez had in the big leagues. And here's a rookie that really wasn't even in the plans in spring training. He came in, shut the door down in the beginning of the season, and he is stuck. But, boy, his stuff is electric. Randy Rodriguez was a guy that always walked guys. They always talked about his control. If he ever found his control, he'd be a great pitcher. But I tell you, Brian Price has done a great job with him slowing the motion down and then excelling at the end and bringing that gas. He's got a nice, lively arm. Another thing Bob Melvin said, he didn't know how long he was going to go, and he gave him 2 2/3, and then they tried to plan it from there. And, when you start planning, you got to have that middle relief. You got to have the end guys, and that's when he was talking about Walker, Tyler Rogers, and Duvall. And sure enough, those three guys gave him 9 up and 9 down in the 7th and 8th and 9th inning. And when you got a 2-1 lead going in there, that's the kind of guys you want to finish the game, especially with throwing strikes. And I keep talking about getting that first pitch strike, and each one of these guys did it more than once. When you look into a bullpen game, these are the games that you kind of figure out before you're even going into the game. What's the mix we have? They look at the opposing lineup. They see where the righties and lefties are, and they try to fix it where we can use this guy or this guy. It's like a puzzle, putting that piece together. And Bob Melvin today did a fantastic job pulling guys when he needed to, pushing some guys when they had to. Ryan Walker came, got a nice double play in the 6th inning, had a 6-4-3 double play after Suzuki got a base hit to lead off the inning. Those are the things that you have to stop the fire, and all these bullpen arms did it today. 6 relievers: Rodriguez, Jelly, Taylor Rogers, Ryan Walker, Tyler Rogers, and Camilo Duvall. And the other thing Melvin said in that cut, they did good. They only gave up 1 run. Well, thanks, Bob. We know that. 1 run on 4 hits. That's what we should have said. 4 hits out of 6 relievers, and they controlled the Cubs' offense totally. I thought it was a dominant job by the bullpen. The Giants in the 2nd inning really started off well. Jorge Soler got a nice base hit to lead off that inning. But the bat of the day was Matt Chapman against Kyle Hendricks. 13 pitches. He kept fouling them off. 13 pitches. And, of course, we always remember the Brandon Belt at bat in Washington when they got into the playoffs, when he ended up, I think it was 18 or 19 pitches he fouled off. But Matt Chapman, 13, and he finally got a walk. Conforto with a nice base hit to right field, scores Soler, and the Giants had got their first run. And here's another one. David Villar coming up there after Estrada struck out with a runner on third with 1 out. And you know how hard the Giants have when they get runners in scoring position. And David Villar with a nice at-bat, getting a deep fly ball to left field. He had a bullet over 100 miles an hour. At first, when you're watching on television, I thought he got it. But again, it was a nice sac fly for David Villar, who's really been battling to stay in the big leagues. Had a great job in AAA. Started off slow and then proceeded to get hot. And now he played some first base today as Wilmer Flores had the day off. 808 KNBR, Giants win today 5-1. Let's get to some phone calls. Hey, we're going to go to Berkeley first and talk to Andrea. Andrea, first caller tonight. How are you? Are you there, Andrea?
Oh, yes. Hello. Sorry. I was just watching the end of the Giants postgame show.
Well, turn that down. You're on my postgame show now,
yes,
Andrea.
There you go. I'm a Virgo. The more information, the better, but I love your show.
Multitasking, that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Andrea, they pulled it off. Another good win today. First 2 games of the homestand.
Yes.
Now they got 2 more with the Cubs and then 3 against the Dodgers. A good motivational game last night. Really put them in a good situation today.
Yes, I mean, coming off that walk-off win, like I said.
Walk-off
win. That was the most exciting walk-off win I ever saw in my entire baseball history. So my voice is still hoarse from screaming about that. So it was just great to see them ride the momentum of that and, get another win. And, it's a bullpen game. I'm getting used to them. And, Randy Rodriguez did quite well. Fellow Virgo, September 5th, 1999, and that was nice. The first couple of innings, he struck out like 7, I think they said. I mean, that was pretty amazing.
Struck out 5. 5. He only got 5. Yeah.
Right.
5. But he did a great job. I mean, the velocity was there. I thought the breaking ball was there. He got to 2 2/3. I was just hoping he'd get out of it to go 3 solid. Gave up a walk, gave up a base hit, and then Jelly gave up a base hit to Bellinger to score the run. But still an outstanding outing for the young man. First start in the big leagues. Goes 2 2/3, only giving up 1 hit. And he really controlled his zone very well in that game.
Yes, fellow Virgo, 1 run over 2 2/3 innings, 5 strikeouts as the opener. And speaking of Virgos, Hayden Bird's song.
There we go.
I'm taking that as a sign from the universe, Bill. One of my favorite Grateful Dead favorite songs is Bird Song. And it's like, wow, someone is actually named Bird Song.
Baseball name, right? It's a good baseball name for you. But, tomorrow, that's going to be exciting. A 22-year-old, 6'4", 215-pounder. He's got electric stuff, Andrea. He really throws the ball hard. Good breaking ball. Of course, the nerves will be going that first inning, and hopefully Patrick Bailey will call him down just to get through the first inning. It's always the first hitter, first pitch. It's always those first 3 outs are their toughest.
Right. I mean, you would know. And, it's just exciting. He's August 30th, 2001. Here we go again with the years. And he's having a positive Jupiter transit in Gemini to his Saturn in Gemini. Jupiter's expansion, abundance, opportunity, and Saturn is career.
Well, it's all good right there. I like it, and I love what Bob Melvin says. I don't want to bring him up just for one start. Let's see what he can do. And, magical moments like that, Andrea, when you get an opportunity like that as a 22-year-old, same thing when I did. I wasn't a big superstar coming out of AAA. Alan Folks got hurt. I got the call. I was the best pitcher, and I stayed up for almost 6 years. So, things like that happen. And, of course, he was a 6th-round draft pick, so, it wasn't like he was a number 1 draft pick. But, boy, they pushed him through the minor leagues pretty quick. He went through AA this year, had a great season, got him up at AAA. And I was saying earlier, Dave Brundage said, Bill, when he throws the ball, there's just something extra on that pitch that gives you that little electricity, a little extra. And I love that because that's the stuff that opens up managers' eyes. It opens up pitching coaches' eyes. And then when you get him up at 22 years old, hey, he might be that starter they need.
Right. I mean, not to be Debbie Downer, but Blake Snell, I'll post the podcast up again. His chart continues to look very challenging, so it's nice we can have some positive energy with some new pitchers.
Why not? Why not, Andrea? Why not? Instead of burning out your bullpen, let's see what these young kids got. That's what your opportunity is. That door opens, and you want to jump through it,
Right. Timing is everything.
It sure is. Andrea, thanks for the call once again.
You,
great
Bill.
Stuff about Randy Rodriguez, and have a great night in Berkeley. I appreciate your time.
Yes, you too. Thanks for a great show. Take care.
Thanks, Andrea. And, it's so important. And I'll have Jelly come in here pretty much. He's waiting for me to jump on, Sean Jelly. And, when we talk about opportunities, all these guys, all these players have gone through it. And when you see a new player coming up, just like yesterday, when we saw the left-hander, Raymond Burgess, I mean, his nerves were outraged. It's just normal for everybody to have a fast heartbeat. And you just got to get out there and calm down. And, of course, the first hitter he faced was Bellinger, who cued it down the third base line. But he stuck it with it. Bases loaded, nobody out, and he stuck with it and only gave up 1 earned run out of it. And it shows the heart. It shows the character. It shows how these guys are growing up. And he got sent down to AAA again because they got to get some arms up here. Mason Black was brought back up here. But, again, the Giants are short on pitching. They're short on starters. So they're trying to do everything they can with these openers yesterday and today. But you continue to keep burning out this bullpen. Today, the bullpen all pitched well, and they didn't really pitch long. Rodriguez was 2 2/3. Everybody else was 2 innings or less. So it was still a solid outing, and these pitchers can come back tomorrow. 808 KNBR, if you want to get on the phone lines, let's talk some Giants baseball. Let's go to Mike in San Francisco. Mike, you're on Sports Phone KNBR with Bill Lasky tonight. How are you?
Doing great, Bill. I wanted to start off by saying couple shows we've been talking, I've been hearing about using the slide step, and how about Walker? How about Ryan Walker?
Yeah, you saw a lot of it today. I'm glad you brought that up, Mike. You did see some more throwovers to first base. You did see a slide step. You even saw just a plain hold, just held until the pitch count went down, the pitch clock went down. But you know what else we saw today? Patrick Bailey throwing out a runner. We haven't seen that in a while, and that was an exciting point right then.
Yeah, that was it. That's what I was focused in on there. And like games where the score is 2-1 don't bother me at all, because then I just start focusing in on the pitching. And tonight, just such a gem, it was a treat. But
I think all those relievers came in with the attitude of trying to get that first out. You know, Taylor Rogers walked a guy, but then he comes back and punches out Cody Bellinger looking. The only call strike 3 tonight out of the 11 strikeouts the Giants had. But they were nibbling on the corners. They were getting the calls. And then the other thing is they had some chases with strikeouts where guys were going out of the zone. I know watching Sean Jelly with that knuckle curveball, he had a couple of them chasing. And then you also had Ryan Walker with that hard slider. So that's the key when you come out of the bullpen. You got to get ahead and then see if you can get them fishing.
Yeah. I was gonna make a wisecrack. You think Jelly might put Brian Price in the slam dunk contest for that?
Oh, you love that. I love that high five. That was pretty funny. If Brian Price was trying so hard to get up there, and his smile on his face just showed you that they were having fun. And, hey, when you're having fun like that and you're winning, everybody's smiling and laughing. And that was pretty funny. When you looked at it on TV, his hand was almost on top of the dugout. That's how tall he is.
Yeah. And you think Randy Double R there might have possibly carved himself a role as the primary opener?
I think one of the biggest things is, they just don't have enough starters. So you're going to have to really push this sooner or later to get an arm in there. I just don't know when Kyle Harrison's coming back. You know, if he's going to come back on the road trip, I would probably presume maybe Atlanta or Cleveland. He's just amping up now. You got to get somebody to get some innings in here because you can't just go opener. We saw what happened last year, Mike, with 2 or 3 games as openers. The bullpen didn't last into August.
True, very true. But one guy we do have is Tyler Rogers, and he could pitch in 162 games, and he'd be fine.
That's even better. Hey, what'd you think of that at bat with Matt Chapman? 13 pitches, held on, kept fouling it off. That was pretty good at bat.
I was asking for him to take a breather. I was like, when is this guy going to call time? he's up there just fighting it off. No, but Chapman was one of the middlemen, and in the groups of 3 he got throughout the lineup. He was a middleman. Ramos was a middleman, and VR it was dead on with that first hit. That sounded good off the bat.
Mike, I was wondering if Kyle Hendricks was going to go back out there in the 8th inning. He had just thrown 100 pitches, 78 for strikes. He was really throwing the ball well. He retired 14 out of the last 16 hitters through the middle of that game. And when you start looking at his pitch mix, sinkers, changeups, curveballs, and he threw 1 cross-seam fastball, and the speeds were the things that really offset the hitters today. 88 on sinkers, 82 on changeups, and the curveball was in the 70s. These kind of pitchers aren't too many of them in the big leagues anymore. Of course, Greg Maddux was that type of pitcher. What'd you think of Kyle Hendricks today?
Okay, so Kyle Hendricks was a guy I underestimated a couple of weeks ago, and I saw him pitch against us last time, and it opened up my eyes. And the guy is great at hitting that gray area, and just putting any of his 6 pitches, in that gray area all game long.
Yeah, he faced the Giants. Yeah, he faced the Giants in Chicago, going 5 2/3 innings, giving up 2 hits, 1 earned run. He was dialed in, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. And the other thing, Mike, when you look at this, 7-2 lifetime against the Giants, and that was in 13 starts with a 2.3 earned run average. So the Giants have had a lot of trouble with him, especially with the off-speed pitches. And some of those pitches, they just look like lollipop pitches, but then he'd fire one in at their hands or throw a little breaking ball in the outside corner. And a lot of them were just, little minute pop-ups, a couple of them were, and nothing hit hard, a couple hard-hit fly balls, but they just couldn't get around on him in the middle innings.
I never pitched, only in strikeouts. And one of my buddies, it was his older brother. No matter what I threw him, he was fighting it off, fouling it off, and it just seemed like every time it was a 10-pitch at bat. and he'd always win. but it's just an old memory.
Well, another game tomorrow. Are you ready? Are you ready to see Hayden Birdsong tomorrow, Mike? I know you watched him a little bit, maybe in the minor leagues, looking at stats and looking at how he's been pitching. He's got a gun. He's going to get it up to 97, 98, and he's got some electric stuff.
I only watched him for about 5 minutes, but I was very much impressed. And he's 22 years old. He was a 22 draft pick. And,
a lot of good stuff. Big kid, too. Big kid, 6'4", real tall kid, too. Yeah.
Yeah, 6'4".
Mm-hmm. Mike, thanks for the call, buddy. I got to run. Take care of yourself, and I'll be talking to you soon, my friend. Thank you. It is going to be exciting tomorrow. That's what's great about watching MLB debuts. It's the first game, the first pitch, everything first. And I've talked about that so many different times in baseball. The first are the greatest, and you'll never forget them. All right, we're going to take a quick break, come back with more. Sean Jelly's going to join me on the post-game show coming up next. So we'll take a quick break, and Big Bad Sean Jelly coming up next right here on KNBR.
This is Sports Phone KNBR. Dial the digits or send us a text at 415-808-KNBR. We're streaming on YouTube all damn day at KNBR 1045.
Back on KNBR's postgame show, the star of the game in my eyes was Sean Jelly. Another outstanding job by you, Sean. How'd you feel coming into the game today?
Felt good. Just really felt in rhythm today. Just trying to really hone in and just focus on executing my pitches just one at a time. And like I said, just really felt in rhythm, felt like I was in a good groove, and just tried to ride that wave as long as I could.
Boy, the numbers really showed it. 8 hitters you faced, 8 first pitch strikes, 23 pitches total, 20 for strikes right then and there. Tells me everything was working. The sinker, the knuckle curveball, and, of course, the cutter. Tell me about those 3 pitches and how good they were tonight.
Well, I feel like with the sinker, that's kind of my MO. That's the bread and butter, so to speak, a little bit. And glove side to right-handed hitters, I'm just trying to throw that. And honestly, I'm trying to get a first pitch rollover, trying to get that weak ground ball. And I kind of tell myself, get the guy on or off in 3 pitches or less. And just kind of helps me stay in that attack mode. And, keep the slider as kind of a put-away pitch and strikeout pitch when I need it. But like I said, just getting ahead with that sinker and just staying on the attack of guys, I feel like just really plays to the advantage.
Boy, you definitely did it. 4 ground ball outs, 2 punchies. And I think what's happening is you're coming in with that first pitch strike. You have multiple different ways to go. Outside corner, back inside, a couple nice knuckle curveballs out of the zone. What was the plan you and Bailey had when you came in tonight?
Kind of like what I just said. Just get ahead with the fastball. Feel confident in executing that pitch, and when I get it in the spots that I want, when I keep it down and keep it away from guys, it's a really good pitch to create that early action and get those ground balls that I'm looking for to get the team back in the dugout and swinging the bat as fast as possible.
Sean Jelly joining me on a KNBR postgame. 25 games already so far, Sean Jelly. 3-1, 2.3 earned run average. Everything's consistent. Everything is coming out of the bullpen with a purpose, and I love the confidence you're showing each time out.
Oh, I appreciate that a lot. It's definitely helped having Bowmel and the rest of the staff have really put in a lot of confidence in me and given me the ball in certain situations and giving me the ball for multiple innings, and obviously the guys making the plays behind me. It just gives you that confidence every single time, a little bit more. Just keep going out there, grab the ball, and just keep executing those pitches and watch those ground balls get made at first base all the time.
Sean, the greatest shot they showed in the dugout was a high five where Brian Price was trying like hell to try to get to that top hand of yours, and he was trying. He pulled your arm down, finally got to it. That was a pretty fun point right there in the game.
I like to mess around with the guys and give them the real high fives, and sometimes BP he'll just kind of roll his eyes at me and accept defeat and give me the high five. But today was a little bit different, so I got to meet him halfway every once in a while.
Well, Sean, yesterday was a very emotional day about Willie Mays, and Spencer Howard really threw the ball real well. 4 2/3, really chewed up a lot of innings for the bullpen. What was your emotions like yesterday before the game, everybody wearing number 24, as well as how was that clubhouse before the game?
Clubhouse before the game was pretty normal. I feel like all year everybody's been focused on what their job is every day in, day out, and doing everything they need to do to get ready for the day. But going out for the field and having the ceremony and listening to everybody speak on the field beforehand, it was really surreal at first. And it just kind of got me thinking about what it really means to put on that uniform every day. And I think Willie did it better than anybody, especially in this organization and in the game of baseball, of representing the team that he played for and doing it with a smile every single day. And he set the bar for what it means to be a Giant, and honestly to just be a ball player every single day and showing up. And like I just said, showing up and working and staying focused on the job at hand and doing what you need to every single day. Just kind of got my wheels turning on just thinking about that and what it means to be a San Francisco Giant.
Well, a tough road trip and coming back last night and winning in the bottom of the ninth, and in a carryover today, Randy Rodriguez was exceptional leading off, and he throws 2 2/3. You come back in, and then it was Taylor Rogers, Ryan Walker, Tyler Rogers, and boy, Camilo Duvall really put the icing on the cake. Just an outstanding job by the bullpen today. Tell me what you thought about the whole game using 6 relievers.
You know, we knew obviously going in we were gonna have a bullpen game, and I think it kind of gets the guys a little bit excited. You know, it's you know we're pitching today. We get to show up, we get to play, we get to do our thing. This is what we dreamed of every single day, and like I said, I think it just kind of heightens that focus a little bit for us. And you see the first guy go out there and he does his, like Randy went out there today and he did his job and then some. You know, he gave us the extra 2 hitters or whatever it may be. To push us that much further, and it just kind of creates this domino effect where you just want to keep it going. You don't want to be the guy to stop the dominoes going, stop the train going, and just keep passing the ball to the guy behind you, and just the utmost confidence in passing the ball off and passing the baton to the next guy. And it's a really special thing to be a part of, to have a bullpen like that. And we got a real tight knit group down there, and we really lean on each other and pull for each other, and really special time to be down there for sure.
Sean, I asked Michael Conforto in an interview, what was it like when you hit a home run and you look out to the bullpen and you give them a little high five or hook them horns? What is that? Where did you guys come up with that? And the bullpen's a big part of that.
Well, we at times we have jokingly said that, you know, we're a part of that homer too. You know, you give everybody in the dugout a high five, but you
That's
know,
right.
we're still on the team. We're out there in the bullpen. You know, we want our little recognition, a little high five, and we want to give it back to you. You know, and so if a guy forgets to point or something on a homer, we'll get on him and give him grief and whatnot, and tell him, you know, you better do it next time, and give us a little shout out there, because you know we're still we're still part of the team too down there. Don't forget about us.
Well, 2 in a row right now. The Giants have played 2 good games. Today, of course, 2-1 until the 8th inning, and you punched out 3 more runs. It really opened the lead a little bit, gave you a little bit of breathing room. But, boy, Camilo Duvall looked really exceptional tonight. I'm sure you got to watch him perform.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's one of the most live and electric arms in our game today. It's pretty special what he can do with a baseball day in and day out. So it's always high entertainment value watching Doobie going out there and do his thing. And I mean, there's plenty of 102 mile an hour fastballs today, which is obviously really fun. But his slider was pretty much unhittable today. I mean, the way that was breaking some of the swings he was getting, that's what I think really makes him special and really separates him. Obviously, you know, you see the velo jumps in the game today. There's a lot more guys throwing a lot harder, and Doobie's one of them, obviously, but his slider, I think, is what really separates him from a lot of guys that can, you know, go out there and just throw. He can go out there and pitch and really separate himself in that way.
Hey, Sean, you're seeing a lot of first-time MLB debuts. Yesterday, you got to see Raymond Burgos, and tomorrow we get to see Hayden Birdsong. I mean, this is exciting times for these young kids, especially Birdsong being 22 years old. I'm sure you remember when you first came up, all the nerves and all the anxious thoughts you're going through your head. Tell me a little bit about a lot of these first-time rookies coming up and pitching for the big leagues.
I mean, exactly what you just said. It makes me a little nostalgic, and it brings back a lot of that same excitement of remembering, you know, my first day up here and going through what that day was, and it just makes you really excited for the guys coming in and doing that. And when I came up and when I debuted, I felt like, you know, I was on the team. I was one of the guys. I was a part of that family immediately from the moment I set foot in that clubhouse that first day. And that's really all I can think about going forward with anybody else that debuts is making that same environment for those guys and making them feel comfortable and making them feel just a part of it and ready to go. And it was really special for me, and it's something that was really meaningful to me. I mean, I think of Brandon Crawford as one of the first guys off the top of my head that, you know, I'm debuting in the big leagues, and I got Brandon Crawford playing shortstop behind me, and it's a really surreal thought to have, and it's pretty special. I mean, you think about what that guy was able to do for this organization and in his career. But he was, greet me and saying hi and kind of showing me, asking questions that I had and showing me what to do kind of on some things. And he just made me feel a part of the family right away. And so that's really my only focus when guys come up here for the first time, is just trying to replicate that for them and make them feel comfortable and just excited. I mean, obviously they're already excited to be here, but just excited to be a part of what we got going on, putting on that uniform and taking it all in for the first time.
Sean, last one for you. The City Connect uniforms are 28-12. You like the unis? Boy, I tell you what, you're getting a lot of wins in those.
I tell you what, the uniform is pretty irrelevant to that stat that you just said. It doesn't matter. If that's what the record is that we're putting out, then
wear them every day, right? Well, you want to wear them.
Yeah, sure. I'll take the uniforms if that's what we'll take these every single day. Then at that point.
Well, Sean Jelly, thanks for jumping on with me tonight. Continued success. I'm watching like a hawk, and I'm enjoying every time you're going out there, my friend. Consistency is the main word. Keep it up.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, Sean Jelly on KNBR's post-game show. More coming up right here on The Leader.
Sports Phone KNBR keeps rolling live from the KNBR Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpot Studios. Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpots are here. Where are you? Just drop in. Please play responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
Well, look, the Soler sack fly was huge at the time because, we have bases loaded and Patty, who's great, usually great in those situational at bats, and all of a sudden, it's bases loaded and an out and no run in, and now a ground ball can get you out of the inning. So getting a ball be able to stay in the big part of the park, getting a ball in the air, that was the big one. And then, Patty hustling in there and a ground ball through the hole, short and third. Regardless, if we just add on a run or two there at that time, the way the game went, it felt like 10. And then to get 4 was obviously huge. Or excuse me, 3.
All right, back on Sports Phone KNBR on a Tuesday night with Bill Lasky. Giants win today 5-1. Bob Melvin talking about that 8th inning where they scratched 3 runs out, opened it up 2-1 for a longest time. They scored 2 in the bottom of the 2nd. Cubs come back with 1 in the 3rd. And everything just kind of got quiet until the bottom of the 8th. And like Bob Melvin said, a nice sac fly by Soler after Patrick Bailey grounds out in a fielder's choice. And you were just wondering if they were going to be able to scratch another run out. And like you said, they scored 3 and it felt like 10 because the Giants have just been scratching runs out trying to win these games. But they did, and they ended up winning 2 in a row now, back-to-back wins. And I want to thank Sean Jelly for jumping on in a post-game show. Coming up at the top of the hour, I talked to my good friend Steve Kroner from the San Francisco Chronicle about a lot of things going around in baseball, especially yesterday with that Willie Mays celebration of life. I know Steve was out there. And, Bob Melvin was talking so much about that yesterday in the post-game show of just the magic of the whole day and just everybody wearing the number 24. So I'll be talking to Steve Kroner at the top of the hour. And let's take a look at the scoreboard real quick. Everybody in the NL West won except the Colorado Rockies. Let's go through it pretty quick. The Arizona Diamondbacks won today in Arizona, beating the Minnesota Twins 5-4. The Diamondbacks now are 39-40. San Diego beat up on the Washington Nationals in San Diego. Yesterday, they had a walk-off win. Today, they win 9-7. They are now 43-41. The Angels, again, took apart the Oakland A's. That was 7-5 down in Anaheim earlier this evening. The Brewers beat the Rangers 3-1 in Milwaukee. The Marlins, of all teams, beat the Kansas City Royals. The Royals are 43-38, and the Marlins went into Kansas City, beat them 2-1. The Dodgers are playing the White Sox. Of course, that is a one-sided game. The Dodgers won today again, 4-3. The Dodgers now got to that 50th win. They're 50-31. The Houston Astros are all of a sudden are getting hot. They beat the Rockies 5-2. They are now 39-40. The Rockies now are 27-52. And Garrett Cole got his first start with the Yankees today, and it didn't go well as the New York Mets beat him 9-7. Garrett Cole did not pitch well in that game. The Blue Jays ended up going to Boston today. They won 9-4. The Padres ended up beating the Cincinnati Reds 9-5 in Cincinnati. The Tampa Bay Rays ended up winning today. They beat the Mariners 11-3. Now the Mariners are kind of scuffling. They're 45-37. The Rays now are 40-40. Philadelphia Phillies went in to see the Detroit Tigers today. And sure enough, the Tigers ended up beating Suarez. He's 10-2, and they beat him 4-1 today in Detroit. The Cleveland Guardians, how about this? And the Giants are going to see the Cleveland Guardians next weekend in Cleveland. Stephen Vogt just doing one hell of a job in Cleveland. They are now 51-26. They came back and beat the Baltimore Orioles in Baltimore tonight, 10-8. The final game, of course, was the Giants and the Cubs, and the Giants won that game 5-1. Tomorrow, 6:45, first pitch right here on KNBR. We talked about it this whole show. Hayden Birdsong, a 22-year-old rookie, getting his first start for the San Francisco Giants. That's going to be a good game tomorrow. Don't miss it. All right, coming up next, my good friend Steve Kroner. We're going to talk some more baseball, a little bit around the league, and some other things. That's going to come up next as we take a quick break on Sports Phone KNBR. Steve Kroner, next up.
Sound off on the sports leader. Sports phone KNBR keeps rolling right here and on the all-new KNBR app.
All right, welcome back to Sports Phone KNBR on a post-game show. Giants win tonight, 5-1. Really a good job by the bullpen. 6 relievers, Rodriguez, Jelly, Rogers, Walker, Rogers, Duvall shut the Cubs down. They only got 4 hits, 1 run, and sure enough, the Giants sparked up 5 runs on 8 hits. And really played a good game of baseball as they come back, and now they have 2 games back-to-back wins. All right, coming up next, my good friend Steve Croner. Of course, he writes for the San Francisco Chronicle. You can read him all year long, done football, basketball, baseball. He is everywhere. Let's bring him on. Hi, Steve. How are you tonight?
Bill, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I mean, it was a good game tonight. I wondered how these openers were going to do, especially when you got through St. Louis and you didn't know what they were going to do in this Chicago series when they had a 4-game series. And the only probables it was Hicks on Thursday. They had the TBA on 3 straight games. I didn't have a clue what they were going to do, Steve. And sure enough, they get the first 2 wins by using the opener and the bullpens.
Yeah, TBA is 2-0 this week, so he's pitching pretty well. I mean, give Bob Melvin and Brian Price a lot of credit. They mixed and matched about as well as you could the past 2 games. So obviously you can't do this for an entire season, but can you do it for a week? Maybe. If necessity calls, you do what you have to do.
Well, Steve, we talked about it last year when Gabe Kapler was doing it all the time. It seemed like every homestand they had 3 or 4 games with openers. You know, you start thinking about what they tried to do, and more it worked. And they discovered, well, it's working. We're going to keep doing it. And sure enough, it just burns out the bullpen. It doesn't matter what you think. Sooner or later, these arms get tired.
Right. That's kind of what I was saying about. You can do it for a week, maybe, and even that's pushing it. But you can't do it for a 162-game season. I remember talking to Roger Craig, I think right when Tampa had started the craze, maybe I want to say it was 2019, where it was talking to Bruce Bochy. I'm sorry. I was talking to Bruce Bochy in the last year of his tenure as the Giants manager, and he was the Giants hadn't used an opener yet. And I asked him something to the effect of, would you consider doing it? He said, yeah, I think I could do it once or twice, but you can't do it over an entire season. You just burn out the bullpen. Mm-hmm. And the Giants last year was a perfect example of that. Again, the ending record of the Giants wasn't very good, but people might forget, in early August, they were not only in contention for a wild card spot, they were in contention to win the division. And then the offense went silent and the bullpen got burned out. And the last 2 months weren't very good.
And, Steve, when they left spring training, I didn't feel that an opener was even going to be used. Bob Melvin didn't even want to even use the word or the terminology of using a bullpen arm. And when you looked at all the length of the starters and you saw Alex Cobb and Robbie Ray, and then you had Blake Snell getting ready to prepare to get into rotation, I didn't figure this was even going to fall apart. And sure enough, it fell apart in all kind of different pieces.
Yeah, the best laid plans, right? And people are talking at the beginning of the season, just the plethora of starting pitching the Giants had, and what are they going to do when Cobb and Ray get back in the rotation? Well, that can't come soon enough. And sorry for Alex Cobb. I mean, there was a lot of optimism in April that he might be back as early as early May, and sometimes optimism is unfounded. And then you wind up doing what the Giants have had to do the last couple of days and look like they're going to have to do maybe for another week or so, and you try to do as best you can.
One of the names we really don't talk about is Tristan Beck, and he's coming back pretty quick. Of course, he had the aneurysm, and I did an interview with him, and it was just like a gut punch. He had no idea what was going on. He was throwing, and all of a sudden his fingers were getting numb. They started poking his elbow, his arm, and some parts were numb. He just didn't get feeling of the ball. And sooner or later they did an MRI, and then they had to go in and do a biopsy. And I talked to him today. I did an event with him at Oracle earlier today, and we talked again, and he was just like, Bill, it was something that was a bad dream. I woke up, and all of a sudden, I'm going to have surgery. And can you imagine that? Going into spring training, you're penciled in as one of the guys that could be in a rotation. The next thing you know, you're having surgery and you don't even know what the hell's going to happen after.
Yeah, Bill, you hate to sound trite or obvious, but, I mean, that's the kind of thing that says, hey, this is only a game. That's life.
That's right.
The word aneurysm, that does send shivers down your spine for good reason, sadly. And thank God it looks like Tristan's on the way back. But when that happens, I mean, you forget about the rotation, you forget about the bullpen, you just worry about the young man's health. And thankfully, it appears he's on the right track.
Yeah, he said maybe 30 days. You know, he's just started throwing off the mound, and he has electric stuff. He could even fit into the bullpen if they need him, or a spot starter. But he was talking probably after the All-Star break, maybe a couple weeks into it. They're not going to push him because they just don't know what's next. But he says he feels great. He looks great, running a lot, doing all the different things. But he said one of the biggest things they didn't want him to do was sweat a lot, because they did a surgery, and the surgery was under an armpit. That's where they kind of went in and got it. And he says it was just so weird, and he said he had to really shut it down completely. And when you hear, injuries like that, and you hear some weird ones like that, you just wonder how in the hell that happened. And he was just dumbfounded, like you and I are talking about it.
Yeah, again, all you can say is thank God they got it. And, and it's like one of those things, too, you kind of put your mindset, if it's early March before they had found that, I mean, your mindset is, hey, maybe I'll be in the rotation, maybe I'll be in the bullpen, my career's looking up. And then certainly for a couple of weeks, you're thinking, I'm worried more about just getting through this time. And now you can start again, and now you can refocus, and now you can start again thinking, you want to get back in the rotation, or you want to at least get on the roster. But thankfully, you don't have to worry about much more pending pressing issues.
Steve Kroner jumping on with me on Sports Phone KNBR. Of course, you can read his great articles, great sports writer in San Francisco Chronicle. Of course, last week, Willie Mays passes away. We both talked about it earlier. We knew he was ill. He was just really, it was just 93 years old, had a great life, and you never really, it doesn't sink in until they say he passed away, and then boy, oh boy, it was like another gut punch. You just looked at Willie Mays as one of the greatest baseball players, one of the greatest men, friends. You could go on and on with that. How did you feel when that happened?
Well, Bill, that's a great question, and I was actually covering the A's game that night, and so it was hard to absorb it because I had a job to do, so to speak,
right.
And I do recall going into the A's clubhouse afterwards and talking to a couple of players, and the players were obviously they're generations behind being able to have seen Mr. Mays play, and I said, look, I'm old, and it ain't great being old, but one of the things that is good about being old is I can tell you I saw Willie Mays play. Mm-hmm. In fact, the very first game I remember going to at Candlestick, now my dad, God rest his soul, tells me that he had taken me beforehand, but the very first game I remember was 1965 in August. It was the Juan Marichal-John Roseboro fight that Willie Mays was – front and center, because he played peacemaker and was able to diffuse what was a terrible situation from becoming worse. And then he hit a 3-run homer off Sandy Koufax that ultimately won the game for the Giants. So getting back to your original question, it really didn't hit me until, to be honest with you, last night, because I went with my wife, Jeanette, and my son, Tom, my good buddy, Matt Rye, whom I'll throw a shout out to him. He got on the telecast tonight for catching a foul ball, but not making it up. That's true. But the ceremony last night, it really did kind of hit that, here was the guy. I mean, I didn't know him. One of the great thrills of my professional career, to be honest, was in 1992 when I was still working for KPIX and CBS had the All-Star game. Willie was going to be the honorary captain for the National League. And I got to go to his house and had about a 25, 30-minute interview with him. And at that point, I was 32 years old. I'm 32 years later. I still remember it. But I was still more than a decade into being, quote unquote, a professional journalist. And you're not supposed to, it's supposed to be blasé. You're supposed to be able to be a professional. When I walked into Willie Mays' house, my knees were shaking. I mean, this guy was my idol. This guy, I think, is, without question, certainly the greatest ball player of my generation. I would think the greatest ball player of all time. And to get to be in his house and talk to him for 25 or 30 minutes, it's one of the greatest memories of my professional career.
And, the stories that you get out of it and what your article wrote, were you even writing things down? Were you just in awe of how he was talking to you? And, I mean, the first time I met him, I was just in awe. I was looking right at him. I'm like, I cannot believe a kid from Toledo, Ohio, just met Willie Mays. And sometimes I reflect on this stuff. And even doing interviews, when I do it on radio, some of the players I interview, I didn't know them 20 years ago. They were before my time, but they talked to me because I'm in that fraternity of being a professional baseball player. And that's kind of how Willie Mays talked to baseball players. You're in the fraternity. You wore that Giants uniform. You're a family. That's what I remember about him.
Well, to be honest, in that interview, it was for TV, so I wound up doing like a 5-minute piece on KPIX's news, and a lot of the stuff went to the CBS telecast of the All-Star game. But, it's been 30 years, and thankfully a friend of mine who had come to and Greg Frediani used to come to KPIX and dub all our highlight tapes. He had dubbed the Raw interview. I hadn't seen it in 30 years. He sent it to me last year. Yeah. It was very cool. And one of the things was I would ask Willie a question, and for the first maybe 15, 20 seconds, he didn't actually answer the question. And I'm thinking, where's he going with this? And then it would he flipped a switch, and he'd give you a great answer. And there'd be, I asked him about the Marichal Roseboro fight. I asked him about the All-Star games. I asked him about, how good the Giants were in the 60s and yet got only one pennant. All these things, and a lot of this stuff, I thought about when I was a kid, and here I am getting able to ask him about it. But it's just, it's not like, it's not like after that, Mr. Mays and I were great friends. I'm sure he probably didn't remember it much longer than I did, but it's a great memory for me. And it was as good, if not better, than I could have hoped it would have gone.
So you go to the ballpark last night knowing they're going to do something before the game. You walk in, you see the beautiful logo behind home plate of Willie Mays swinging. You see the number 24 in center field. They even had the clock above the scoreboard, number 24. And then all of a sudden the celebration starts. Dave Fleming, Kruk, and Kipe start talking. And Dave was talking today. He said, what was really strange about that? Not one person in the ballpark made a sound. He said it was quiet as a mouse. He said usually when you're doing these ceremonies, people are stirring around, they're getting in their chair. How was that? You were at the ballpark. How quiet was it? Was all the attention just drawn right to Dave, Kruk, and Kipe?
No question. And I think to the ancillary stuff you just mentioned, to the clock, to the videos they showed on the board. But people were very attentive. And I think John Shea wrote this in his article. People were trying to find the right way to both grieve and celebrate, because it's a loss for all of us. I mean, I had the pleasure of again talking to Mr. Mays for 20 to 30 minutes 32 years ago, but it's not as if we were personal friends. But his loss did affect me, and there were people. My son obviously didn't ever get to see him play, but I'm sure it affected Tom, and it affects almost anybody who has a connection. I'd say first to the Giants, but even just to baseball. If you have an affection for the game, the loss of Willie Mays affects you. But again, the celebration part is the guy had a great life. He was the embodiment of playing the game both at the highest level and having fun doing it at the highest level. So you want to both take that and remember it and celebrate it, And then there's also the part that says, gosh, we're going to miss him, and we're going to miss him for a long time.
Yeah, I went to a park today, and I had an event at Oracle Park, and Mike Tiny Felder was with me, and instead of walking right in, we went out and saw the statue. I said, I got to go see a statue. I got to see what the fans have done, and it is gorgeous. People have brought drawings up there. They've put all kind of just memories up there, and the flowers, of course, all the fresh flowers. It just smells so great out there, and it really makes you tear up. Both Tiny and I kind of just drawn back a little bit and looked at it all, and it was just so special. And if anybody gets a chance to go out to 3rd and King, and stand by the statue, there's a power there to it. There's a spirit there. And both of us being ex-players and both knowing Willie, I tell you, Steve, it was really emotional.
Yeah, and I thought, if I'm not mistaken, I heard your interview with Sean Jelly a few minutes ago. I thought both of you guys were informative. And I think Sean said it, and he obviously didn't see Willie play, talking about how seeing that ceremony really reinforced how special it is to wear the Giants uniform.
Yeah.
Well, let's take me back to April of 1982. We're about the same age, so you grew up maybe not around here, didn't see Mays in person perhaps, but you knew the legend of Willie Mays. When you put on the orange and black for the first time, did the thoughts of, hey, I'm wearing the same uniform that Mr. Mays did run through your mind?
I don't think at first, because as a rookie, I don't think you really understand what that uniform is. You're trying to get to the big leagues. And like you said, I grew up in the Midwest. The Tigers, the Reds, the Indians were all a big part of my childhood. I knew about the Giants. I knew about the Dodgers. I knew that rivalry. But it didn't take me maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks to realize this is a uniform that I'm making my rookie year on. And this is something that I remembered so well. And meeting Willie Mays, Juan Marichal, Gaylord Perry, all those guys. And, of course, we always want to thank Mike Murphy, because Murph was the one that opened the door and let those guys in and proceeded to roll that red carpet out to these guys. So all us players that played got to know about the past. We just talked about with Sean Jelly. He didn't know about it, but the perception of wearing that uniform and wearing it proudly, and the way he said it, Willie Mays had fun doing the game. You said it a minute ago. That's what you want. That's the kind of goal you want in your childhood dreams, to bring it to the big leagues. And then, like you say, you wear that uniform proudly, and then you start fighting to win each time out.
Yeah. And I was talking to Mike Aldretti, who's an A's hitting coach now, after the game last Tuesday night, because it was the night that Mr. Mays had passed. And, Mike grew up around here, and he was a Giants player for 3 seasons. And he said one of the greatest thrills of his professional career was, and people forget this sometimes, that Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle were ostracized from baseball for the early 80s because of a connection with Bally's. And thankfully, I believe it was Peter Uberoth reinstated them. And so Mike said in his rookie year of 1986, and you were still on the team, obviously, that both Willie Mays and Willie McCovey had lockers in your guys' clubhouse. And Mike said he was so lucky that he got to his locker was next to the two Willies. And he said, as a rookie, a kid who grew up in Monterey, rooting for the Giants and listening to Russ Hodges and Lon Simmons on the transistor radio, to have your locker next to Willie Mays and Willie McCovey, what more could a guy ask for?
Well, Steve, you remember the old-timer games. Those were the great ones at Candlestick Park, from Tom Haller to Jimmy Davenport, Juan Marichal even through, Tito Fuentes. They came on and on and on, and Willie Mays was there, Willie McCovey was there, Orlando was there. That's when really you start thinking about, look at all these guys all played for the Giants. All of them having fun, jarring each other. That's what I miss about those old-timer games, because we had one at Oracle a long time ago, I remember, and, that's what they need to bring back, just so fans can see that interaction again.
Yeah, it's hard, I know, in some respects, because like basketball tried it, and you really can't do it in basketball because it's too easy.
They should
for
do
guys
half court. Do half court basketball.
Yeah, or maybe a horse game or something. Yeah, but even if you had, and maybe guys wouldn't want to do it because you've played the game at the highest level. Even if you just had a softball game, just to see guys out on the field again and taking swings and taking good-natured barbs at each other. Yeah, I used to love going to old-timers games, both as a kid and early in my professional career. It would be a great way to get some great interviews because guys are obviously in much better moods most of the time. They don't have to worry about who's going to win or lose that game or whose job's going to be lost or won. But yeah, I certainly miss old-timers games as well, Bill. I have no question about it.
Well, I'm sure you saw the highlight when Willie was playing with the Mets in an old-timer game. He was like 50 or 52 years old. He went out to left center field and slides and makes this catch. And everybody goes, yeah, he's 52 years old and he's still doing it. But he was having fun. That's what he kept saying. I just have fun playing baseball. And that's what he wanted kids to know. He talked to so many kids. So many baseball players brought their kids in and other kids from friends. He didn't want to talk to anybody. He just wanted to talk to the kids. That's what was so special about him.
Yeah, and I forget, somebody said, it might have been Mike Kruko, you say the word kid, it's actually a huge compliment. Willie Mays was the say hey kid. Gary Carter was the kid. He's a Hall of Famer, God rest his soul. Ken Griffey Jr. was the kid. You got to be pretty darn good to be the kid. And those three guys are in Cooperstown, and they're probably all kidding at each other at some point. Mr. Mays was the greatest, and I don't think there'll ever be another. And just you mentioned old-timers games, Bill. I pretty much remember this, that Lou Boudreau, the great Cleveland shortstop, I believe he was really old. I want to say he was in his 60s, 70s, and he hit a home run in an old-timers game in Washington. This is in the early 80s, and it was the old RFK Field, so left field was short or whatever. But still, you get those kind of memories. Willie making a catch in left center field, I think at Shea Stadium. You said, some of those memories are priceless.
A few more minutes with my good friend Steve Kroner. He writes for the SF Chronicle on Sports Phone KNBR. The Rickwood Experience. It was, an eye-opener. Would you have wanted to go there and see it?
No question. I was talking with a good friend of mine, Art DeLugich, who was a producer at KPIX when I was there, and Art's now in Texas, semi-retired, still working some radio and a once-a-week sports column for a once-a-week newspaper, and we were talking about, what would you rather go to? Would you rather go to the Super Bowl or the Rickwood game? And we both said I'd rather go to the Rickwood game. And it's not like I'm not an NFL follower.
Right.
Of course, I'm an NFL follower. But I have been to a Super Bowl. I've never been to Rickwood. I would never have seen, the history on display with all the legends of the Negro Leagues there, and to get that history and to feel it. I would have loved to have been there.
Was it surprising to you to see all the Negro players that played in that league? I was really dumbfounded in seeing each one of them coming out with a different jersey, some of them in canes, some of them in wheelchairs, all the players coming out with them. I thought that was such a remarkable contrast of here's the new players, here's the game what we're playing, and here's where it started in Rickwood. I was glued to my TV set watching that.
Yeah, and I think another thing that you say warms your heart, seeing the video of the current players going to the Negro League players and sincerely thanking them for what they did 50, 60, 70, maybe 80 years ago. That really hits you. It hits you hard and well. That the players today do have a sense of history, that they do have some reverence for the players behind me. A lot of times we get to a certain age and we want to dismiss the younger generation, that they don't appreciate what, we did when we were their age. But those guys clearly showed their appreciation, and they clearly showed a sense of history. And baseball, they say baseball is the best game in terms of generational ties. Fathers and mothers taking their sons and daughters, and grandfathers and grandmothers taking their grandkids. and that was kind of a living example of the way baseball ties generations together. And I thought, a lot of times people, and myself included, will criticize Major League Baseball for certain things, but I thought Major League Baseball did a fantastic job on putting together that event at Rickwood Field over the not only the game itself, but the couple of days leading up to the game. So,
I asked a couple players when they were in St. Louis, how was the field? Was the field, good shape? They said, Bill, it was a brand new field, $5 million they put it on it. And, they showed it in quick pictures how it was redone and what they had to do to the wall in the outfield and the warning track. And of course, the back wall was the original stadium. And boy, what was it, 470 to center field or something like that? It was just tremendous blast to try to hit it out of center.
Yeah, and tying it to Willie, if he played there early in his career, he had 470. I believe the Polo Grounds was, that his famous catch against Vic Wirtz in the '54 World Series was 460 feet to center field. And think about how many home runs he lost at Candlestick with the wind blowing in from left. If he plays in quote unquote normal parks, other than Rickwood, the Polo Grounds, and Candlestick, his home run total, as amazing as it was, 660 in the major leagues, seriously, he could have 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 more homers if he'd have played in quote unquote normal parks.
Do you think they should play that every year? Do you think that should be an annual game?
Yeah, I don't know that it should annually be at Rickwood, it was a great spot. But people talk about
it sure was.
You could have it in Kansas City, where the Negro Leagues Hall of Fame is.
That would be a great idea too.
You could. I think maybe you do it like the British Open. You have one. Maybe the Rickwood is the old course, and then so you go there once every 5 years, and you find other Negro League places. I guess Pittsburgh was a very big Negro League city, and I think you could spread it around and maybe have Rickwood as the base city. But yeah, to have one game a year where you honor the history and the legacy of the Negro Leagues, I think that's a great idea.
The pregame show was a shocker. I think a lot of people were shocked by what Reggie Jackson said. But I was on KTVU Channel 2 News over the weekend, and Frank Malik had asked me, and I said, it's the truth. I grew up in the Midwest, and my dad grew up as a factory worker. My mom would never let any of us say that word. And when Reggie Jackson was saying it, it took me back to my childhood, because a lot of people just said it. It was like a normal word in different phrases. And he said it in a very emotional way, in saying this is what we had to go through. It wasn't an easy step to eat. It wasn't an easy step to get a bed to put my head down. But the way he said it was so educational, and a way that people should understand how the world was back then, and it's still like that. How did you like that whole scene by Reggie Jackson?
Well, again, Bill, I was covering the A's that day as well, so I didn't see it live, but I certainly saw the clip of it. And look, I think it was great. I think people, you're right. You don't want to sugarcoat history. And he also, he said it the way it was, the way it affected him, but he also said it in a way that he did praise his manager, John McNamara. He did praise his teammates who stuck by him. I believe, I'm forgetting a couple, but I believe Joe Rudy.
Yeah, he said Raleigh Fingers was one of them.
Right.
Sure, yeah.
Lee Myers, yeah.
Yeah.
So he didn't. It wasn't complete negative, but for the most part, he lived an uncomfortable, to put it mildly, existence there. And I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing that up. I think it was good to bring it up.
So do I.
Again, it's sort of like, obviously different circumstances, but last night, how do you both grieve and celebrate? I think at Rickwood, how do you both celebrate the past but acknowledge the thorns of the past, the injustices of the past? And I think Reggie Jackson did a great job of balancing that.
I think he did, and I keep saying an educational part. the people of today, the young kids they don't know what's going on, and they don't understand what happened when Willie Mays was 16 years old. But it was an open eye type thing. I love what you said about the museum in Kansas City. I've not been there, but you heard John Smoltz talk about it during the game. He says it's an eye awakener. So many things in that museum just open your eyes to where baseball was and how baseball was played. Have you ever been there, or have you known anybody that went there?
I have not been there, but I know other people who have been, and they rave about it. And also, speaking of the telecast, I was able to get home from covering the A's game, and I saw like the last 5 or 6 innings. And Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro League Museum, was just spinning stories. And I mean, it's one of those things you could listen to him for 3 hours and not be bored for a second. Some of those stories that he told were fabulous. And they, a lot of times when I'm watching a game and there are stories being told that aren't about the game itself that I'm watching, I'll admit, as just a viewer and a fan, I get frustrated. But even though he wasn't talking about the Giants and Cardinals specifically in that game, those stories just added so much texture and so much background and so much history to the telecast. I just thought that was a really smart move by Fox to have him in the booth for as long as he was. And, they say make sure you leave him wanting more. As long as he was on the air, I still wanted more. So more power to Mr. Bob Kendrick.
I had a chance to catch up with Ricky Horton, who's one of the Cardinals play-by-play and color commentators, and I talked to him about it. And he said, one of the things I did, Bill, I tried to step away from the telecast and just sit there like a fan. And he said the 5 or 10 minutes I sat there, I got so emotional I started tearing up because I was seeing what was played there so many years ago, and it brought everything to life. And just the way he said it, it was just like you're imagining it, and then all of a sudden you're seeing it, and then now you're seeing a game there. That's what was so precious about it, being there. I wasn't there. I had some friends go there, and they said, Bill, it was like goosebumps the entire game because of so many things that happened before the game, how they changed the whole city, and they made everything highlighted at Rickwood that night.
Yeah, and look, the Giants lost the game 6-5, but I think most Giants fans, even diehards as many of them are, would say the outcome of the game was not even secondary or tertiary. But whatever word there is that goes beyond secondary and tertiary, for the importance of the outcome was just so thankfully overshadowed by just the history and the emotion of that day. Again, hats off to Major League Baseball and all the men and women who put that event together, because it's going to be one of those events that people who were there will remember for a long time, and those of us who were able to see it only on television, I think, still will remember it for a long time.
Yeah, final questions here with Steve Kroner as we finish up on our post-game show on Sports Phone KNBR. Giants got a big guy throwing tomorrow, man. I mean, this is going to be a special, with Hayden Birdsong, 22-year-old rookie coming up. And I love what Bob Melvin said. I don't want to bring him up here for one start. I want to see what this kid's got, and he's supposed to have electric stuff going up in the high 90s, big curveball, big slider. But the presence of being a rookie starting this game tomorrow, that'll be a fun one, Steve.
Yeah, Bill, you went through it April 23rd, if I'm not mistaken, 1982, coming in for Alan Folks. What were your nerves that day?
Well, it was that 12 o'clock Wednesday day game. That was the thing about it. There might have been 500 people in the stands, if that, pitching against the Expos. It's that first inning. It's that first hitter I talked about earlier. First pitch, first strike, first hitter, get the first out, and you start breathing like a normal game. But there's the expectations of it. Him him sleeping tonight thinking about it, looking at that lineup that's going to be in there tomorrow. You can't get your mind off it. You can't relax. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to go to sleep and I'll have a sound asleep. Your nerves are already getting nervous. You're thinking about it already until you wake up and get to the ballpark and put that uniform on and you have that silence for like a half hour before you start warming up. Man, I tell you what, it is such a rush, Steve.
Yeah, I'll bet. I will say this, and hearkening off what Bob said, in some respects, I think the fact that the Giants have so many injured starters maybe makes it just a tad easier for Mr. Birdsong tomorrow because he, a rookie who comes in and maybe it's a spot start, the way Mason Black had his couple of starts, he kind of knew that he probably wasn't going to be in the rotation for a long time as soon as Blake Snell got healthy, if Keaton Wynn got back, that kind of thing. But there are so many guys who are out at the moment. Peyton Birdsong might be able to get away with, not a great start tomorrow. And because of necessity, the Giants are going to have to give him maybe 2 or 3 more starts. And if he does well, he'll earn those 2 or 3 starts
I love that.
Anyway.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants really do need that. I mean, 'cause who knows when, the rotation is going to be what the Giants envisioned it to be. You certainly hope it's going to happen, but there's no guarantee it will. So
Not
in
at
the
all.
meantime, Hayden Birdsong gets his opportunity, and if the young man takes advantage of it, more power to him.
Well, it'll be a fun one. But, Steve, thanks so much for your time. Good baseball talk like always, and it's always a pleasure talking to my friend Steve Kroner.
Bill, right back at you.
My good friend Steve Kroner, you can read his work at the SF Chronicle. More coming up right here on Sports Phone KNBR as we finish up the post-game. Giants win today 5-1. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Speak your mind on the sports leader. Sports Phone KNBR keeps coming at you. Streaming live at twitch.tv/the sports leader.
All right, finishing up on a Tuesday night on Sports Phone KNBR with Bill Lasky. Giants win today 5-1. They're 38-42. First pitch tomorrow at 6:45. We've been talking about it all night. Hayden Birdsong for the Giants. Big 6'4" right-hander. We're going to see what he's got and what his mix is, and that's the first pitch right here on KNBR. I want to thank Sean Jolly for jumping on with me. That was a great little conversation. And, of course, if you didn't hear that last conversation with Steve Kroner, you can hear them both on podcasts. Great conversation with my good friend Steve. I really appreciate that. I want to thank my two pretty much producer and all my good help back in the studio. That's Cole and Overnight Dave. Thanks again for both of you guys helping out the show. I'll be on again tomorrow night once we find out if the Giants will take 3 in a row. So join me tomorrow on Sports Phone KNBR. But I will say a quick good night to all of you. Have a pleasant night. Giants win today 5-1. They've got back-to-back wins. We'll see if they can do it again tomorrow. Have a good night. KNBR Overnight is going to come up next. You'll hear the replay, and that's all coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Bojan Bogdanovic and a second-rounder to the Nets in exchange for Mikal Bridges. Former Villanova star reunites with Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, and Josh Hart from their championship days. Brooklyn able to get a big haul in helping their rebuild. Nets also in a separate deal did some swapping of first-round picks with the Rockets. As for the Warriors, still trying to figure out if Klay Thompson remains in their plans or if one half of the Splash Brothers is